Good morning. Welcome to Allen Avenue Unitarian Universalist in-person and online worship. Whether today is your first time here or you've been coming for years, we're glad you're with us. My name is Bill Burge, my pronouns are he, him, and I'm a member of the worship committee. We at Allen Avenue are a growing community that transforms lives through the power of love. Our mission calls us to celebrate diversity, to encourage spiritual growth, and to promote social responsibility while we care for the earth. Welcome to those at home who are joining us on Zoom today. If you're attending for the first time, please go to our website and fill out the welcome card so that we can stay in contact. This morning, we're presenting a service focused on ritual. Lay-led worship is a tradition at this and many Unitarian Universalist congregations. At Allen Avenue, the worship committee either sponsors or presents one such service a month. On most other Sundays, services are led by our minister, Reverend Tara Humphreys. Your Family Promise team needs help. We're on track to getting most of our Family Promise families' immediate material needs met. But the 25-year-old mom could really use more support. We're looking for a few people who could meet with her from time to time to help her with English skills and generally acclimating to Portland and life here. French skills are helpful, but not required. If you have questions or are able to help, please see Emily O'Neill. And please join us for a Thanksgiving potluck at 1:30 on Thanksgiving Day. A sign-up is in the foyer. See you then. And in 3 weeks, or less than 3 weeks, is the holiday fair. I believe it's December 6th. We still need some volunteers to sell baked goods, and we need one or two more to serve food at the cafe. Also, Connie Cross needs a volunteer for the plant and holiday decor table. And next Sunday, there'll be some flyers that you can take and post in your community. Now, we invite you to take this opportunity to silence your cell phones so that we can all be fully present. After the service, please grab a cup of coffee or tea and stay for conversation, or head down to the end of the long hall to join a group for the brown bag brunch. Those on Zoom may stay on and connect with one another. Now, let us center our hearts and minds with the sound of the singing bowl.
Hello, I'm Anna Noyes-Benoit, a member of the worship committee. My pronouns are she and her. Meet me at the altar of banned books, Blanket Fort Sanctuary. We will dance to a chorus of children's laughter. Meet me in the joy, the sorrow, beneath the rainbow banner. Bring your questions, cares, concerns. Bring the glitter in your pockets. Bring the sparkle in your smile. Bring your heavy heart, your favorite mug, and your very best swear words. Set down your very bravest face. Meet me in the heartbeat between what has been and what will be. Meet me in the flicker of our eternal flame. We need not face this moment alone. Blessed be. As we perform the ritual of lighting the chalice, we invite those at home to light their candle or chalices so that we can be more connected with one another. As we light a chalice, a a container of air, earth, and fire, this ritual of our faith reminds our subtle and crashing about beings that we are a collective, a community of care and connection, courage and questions, sacred and scared together. Today we gather with intention and creativity, releasing what we must, shaping what we will, in a space made possible by generations of community care and the courage of connection. Our first hymn this morning is number 347 in the gray hymnal or up on the screen. Dale will play it through first, and then please rise as you're willing and able and sing.
Hi, I'm Susie Hubley. I'm a member of the worship committee. And next up is our Time for All Ages. And it's presented by and written by Erica Bartlett on a video because she's under the weather today, so she's not able to be here in person.
Good morning. My name is Erica Bartlett. I'm sorry I can't be there in person today, but I'm glad that through technology, I can still share my ritual with you. A lot of us have rituals this time of year because there are so many holidays in late fall and early winter. Thanksgiving, Hanukkah, the winter solstice, Kwanzaa, Christmas, and more. And the ritual I want to talk about relates to Christmas, specifically getting and putting up a Christmas tree and decorating it. In fact, I've been decorating Christmas trees for as long as I can remember. Although when I was little, I don't know how much it meant to me beyond getting excited for presents, of course. I knew it meant a lot to my mom, though. She loved Christmas, and that included the tree. She always wanted to make sure every ornament was put in just the right place, particularly her favorites. For example, we had a pretty gold ornament of a little girl ice skating that my mom loved because she had enjoyed ice skating ever since she was a little girl. We were also lucky because despite all of our pets, including several dogs and lots of cats, and others that luckily didn't get near the tree, I don't remember them causing problems with the tree. The only exception was one year during college when my brother's cat Karma was staying at my parents' house for Christmas with the rest of us. Karma wasn't the brightest cat, and she decided it was a good idea to climb the Christmas tree and then use it as a jumping off point to go after the birds outside the bay window. Of course, the tree fell, but luckily only a few ornaments broke and none of the fancy ones. And Karma was startled, but fine. And so before I go on, I want to share a couple of photos with you. So this is my mom in front of our Christmas tree sometime in the late 90s, whenever that particular book came out. This is the ornament of the little girl ice skating, and I always like the little puppy next to her. And this is my the cat Karma who got into the tree and knocked it over. When I got old enough to have my own place and get my own Christmas tree, that's when it became more meaningful to me, and it became a real ritual. For quite a few years, that ritual started in early December when my brother and I went to get our trees at a Christmas tree farm, just about a mile from where we grew up. It was fun going to pick just the right one, thinking about how it would look in my condo. We'd also visit with my dad, and he often made tasty treats like homemade donuts. Unfortunately, the tree farm closed after a while, so I now go to Broadway Gardens to get my tree instead, but I still enjoy picking out just the right one. Then once I have my tree, I get home and set it up by my front window so I can see the lights from the outside. I love having the fresh balsam scent, and my cats like hanging out under the tree. When I start decorating, it always begins with the lights, and I remember helping my mom put the lights up when I was younger. It always seemed to be the two of us doing the decorating. And when I put the ornaments up, I also take great care with where I put them. Even though my cats are good with the tree, I make sure not to tempt them. I only put soft, non-breakable ornaments near the bottom, including some cross-stitch ones I made, and some my mom had made with photos of me as a kid with a sort of string frame. Then towards the top go the more fragile ones, like a ceramic moon and star ornament my mom gave me for the winter solstice in 1999, and the figure skating one that I inherited from her. Decorating the tree feels a bit like going back in time, reliving earlier Christmases, remembering stories behind the different decorations, and reviving the sense of wonder and meaning that makes these kinds of rituals special. And I have just a few more photos to share. So these are some of the soft ornaments that go towards the bottom of the tree, just in case anyone gets any ideas. This is the moon and star ornament that I got on the winter solstice in 1999. And here is my Christmas tree itself from a few years ago. So I'll be starting my Christmas tree ritual again in a few weeks, and I'm looking forward to it. I know that not everyone has a Christmas tree or even celebrates Christmas, but I hope that you're able to enjoy whatever rituals you have during these winter months.
Good morning. My name is Mike Luce, member of the Worship Committee. My piece is entitled The Fire. The Fire, sorry. One evening in Arizona, I felt what you could call a burning desire to get off Fort Huachuca, where I was stationed. If you've ever lived on an Army base, you'll understand. I had been there for some time and was pretty comfortable in the landscape by then, so going out solo, but not all that far away for a night, was fine. I brought some wood, found a nice place where it was dark and uninhabited, and set up camp. I built a fire, made some coffee, and then nothing. If anybody had been watching, I wasn't doing anything. I just stared into the fire and let it have its way with me. So here's where my mind went, staring into that fire. First, I saw the very base, the wood, being transformed to heat, light, ash, and smoke rising. In that dark desert, my eyes followed it up as it blended into the stars. It looked like the smoke was intermingling with the stars, like the boundary had disappeared, like the stars were this close. That happens out in the desert in the dark. Now, you know how sometimes moments of grace can occur and we barely notice? I think that's what that was. I had other things on my mind at that point, but that thing about connection slipped in the back door. When I look back now, I understand that this was an inflection point in my life. But it was quiet, not fully realized. I'm a little slow. Softly, the message of connection had worked its way into my consciousness. From the wood and the fire to the stars, transforming, but the same. It's where my mind went when this topic came up for a service. Even though I didn't see that night with the fire as any kind of ritual, it was. It was a deep, atavistic connection that I think humans have always found in fire. The mind is freed, transformed. Fire's always been a connection to the universe, the gods, everything. For instance, there's the Hindu deity Agni, a fire deity who brings offerings from the earthly beings to the celestial beings. In both old Europe and the Americas, there were rituals to burn dolls and figurines, symbolizing the old year and a new beginning. This one's good. In the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in Jerusalem, the holy fire is divinely rekindled on the eve before the Orthodox Easter and brought to churches around the world. A priest goes in alone to this little place, and there's no fire, and comes out with fire. Didn't bring any matches, allegedly. There's a whole lot of ceremony around this, as you'd expect. It's that important as a symbol of resurrection. One curious thing I noticed was the Christian concept of a fiery hell is one of the few instances where fire is seen as purely negative, with no transformation involved. I find that interesting to ponder. And I didn't even touch on the ultimate fire worship, the sun. So my solo experience in the desert aside, fire gathers us together in rituals, both sacred and secular. It's been central to humankind from long before recorded history. Something about it is truly elemental. It's the physical manifestation of the gods and the symbol and reality of transformation. It's in the places we gather, providing comfort of many types. So I guess what I'm left with is the thought that while fire transforms us, we make of it what we will. And these words by Lynn Cox. Spirit of life, who draws us together in a web of holy relationships, make your presence known with us and in us, among us. Remind us that we are not alone in history. Ignite us with the courage of the living tradition. Remind us that we are not alone in entering the future. Anchor us with patience and perseverance. Remind us that we are not alone in our times of grief and pain. Comfort us with your Spirit, manifest in human hands and voices. Remind us that we are not alone in joy and wonder. Inspire us to honor and extend the beauty we find in this world. Divine music of the universe, let our hearts beat the diverse and harmonious rhythms, cooperating with an everlasting distance of love. May we move with the rhythms of peace. May we move with the rhythms of compassion. May we move with the rhythms of justice. Source of stars and planet and water and land, open our hearts to all of our neighbors. Open our souls to a renewal of faith. Open our hands to join together in the work ahead. So be it, blessed be. Amen.
What a nice ritual that little piece of music is. Good morning, I say in a ritualistic way. Good morning. I am Rick Kimball, and today I invite you to think of the rich in a ritual. I will use my own experience to expand and expound on that theme. When I was a lieutenant in the Air Force, I was assigned to a base in southern Italy. Soon after my arrival, a captain greeted me, reached into his pocket, and pulled out an electrical connective device like this. Here, he said, this is your silver bullet. Keep it with you at all times. If another officer approaches you, reaches into his pocket and pulls out his own silver bullet, you need to respond by pulling out yours. If you don't have it, you owe him or her a drink. Well, what an odd ritual, I thought. So much for protecting the free world. But junior officers do not ask easily their senior officers if they are nuts. So I played the game. Strange it continued to be, and yet it had value. It proved the rich of much ritual. It offered an immediate, if sort of silly way to meet and greet. It bridged the gap between junior and senior. It connected strangers in a world filled with grief on a base made necessary by war and the threat of war. It brought smiles and laughter and drinks. I liked it. Now I invite you to consider the ritual that is not rich. It may grow out of the same need as the rich ritual does, the want to connect with others as one, the wish to escape from tyranny of change and pain into the comfort of tradition and close or even closed group. But the ritual not so rich destroys its own value by causing harm. When ritual involves not a silver bullet, but humiliating, tyrannical, and dangerous practices, it is not rich. It has negative value, it is bad, at its worst, it is evil. Consider such things as hazing of newcomers to a football team, the raising of arms to the shouts of Heil Hitler, or aggressive attacks on whole religions, whole groups of demonized others. When somebody offers a silver bullet, we must consider it carefully, make a judgment. Is the ritual suggested by it rich or not? Newcomers to this church must make such judgments about A2U2 rituals, the words we speak, the welcomes we offer, the candles we light, the music we make. Most visitors, I believe, will find these rituals rich, even though old-timers might consider some to be weakened by repetition. Who among us, for example, who among us pays attention to each and every word spoken in our weekly invitation to give our money away? Sometime when I am charged with making that invitation, I may suggest that people take money out of the basket instead of putting it in. Then we will know who is hearing every word. But there is one A2U2 ritual that cannot be ignored, and that is the ritual of the hug. More exactly, the healing hug, both physical and virtual. I have known that ritual well since my wife died in July. I felt its strength especially on the day we celebrated Tyrrell's life. How many people came up to spread out their arms and pull my heart close to theirs? I don't know, but I loved it that day, and I continued loving it the next day, even as the chiropractor worked to fix my screws and rib cage. In fact, if I could live this life again, I would learn much earlier to present as a little old man who looks like he could use a big hug. I'm sure I would get many. The healing hug, there is the quintessentially rich ritual. Many members and friends of this church are extraordinarily good at it. When your own turn to need it arrives, as it someday will, hold your arms wide and say yes, for it will help. Blessed be. Speaking of ritual, and speaking of rich, the church is not. And speaking of ritual, it is time for the weekly spiritual practice of generosity. Our gifts support the ministries of this congregation and our work in the broader community. Each week, 1/3 of our offering is given away to a local nonprofit organization doing work to advance our shared values in the world. This month's Share the Plate recipient is the Immigrant Legal Advocacy Project, or ILAP, as Maine's only statewide immigration legal service is called. ILAP advances justice and equity for immigrants and their families through direct legal services, community education, and systematic advocacy. Donations can be made now as the basket is passed through the donate button on our website, or if you are a member, on Breeze, remembering to make note that your gift is for Share the Plate. And no matter how hard you may be hoping, I will not invite you to take money out of the basket. How could the people on Zoom do that anyway? If you are visiting us for the first time, please know that your presence is your gift to us, and that is enough. At this time, our offering will be collected and gratefully received.
My name is Bill Burge. I'm the newest member of the worship committee, and I'm going to try to cover 3 millennia in the next 5 minutes by talking about the ritual of sacrifice. 3,000 years ago, our Judeo-Palestinian religious ancestors practiced human sacrifice. The rites of Molech are well described in Volume 5 of Professor Heath Durrell's Explorations in Ancient Near Eastern Civilization, published only 8 years ago. They are also well described by the authors of Genesis, chapter 22, first published about 3,000 years ago. In chapter 22, we read a story called The Binding of Isaac. It's so well known that a video game version was finally released in 2011. However, the original story is as serious as it is strange. God tells Abraham to sacrifice Sarah's firstborn child. And then, at the last moment, God changes his mind. Weird, huh? Now we know the rest of the story. The God of the story was common ritual. In the days before Abraham, it was virtuous to sacrifice one's firstborn. And another common ritual was to sacrifice any child born with a serious birth defect. Abraham's actual firstborn was Ishmael. Wasn't it enough to send him and his mother Hagar into the wilderness? Why did Abraham have to sacrifice Isaac? See if you can make the diagnosis. Isaac's mother, Sarah, was very old when she gave birth to him. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, together with their wives Sarah, Rebekah, Rachel, and Leah, are considered the ancestors of the Jewish people. All of them had interesting and unique lives, all of them except Isaac. The stories of Isaac only seem scaled-down versions of the things Abraham did. In addition, Abraham traveled hundreds of miles from Mesopotamia to establish himself in a new land. Jacob traveled back to Mesopotamia, worked for 14 years, dealt with a terrible in-law, returned with 2 wives, and in the process took on all this and even took on his dangerous brother, who was very upset with him at the time, or he was afraid he was. But Isaac, he was unable to simply go find himself a wife. When Isaac's servant brought Rebekah to Isaac, she took one look at Isaac and fell off her camel. In his later years, Isaac became blind, a complication in older folks with trisomy 21, also known as Down syndrome. Isaac's father, Abraham, introduced 2 new rituals. First, he introduced to his society animal sacrifice in place of human sacrifice. Even more importantly, he introduced to us, then as well as now, the important ritual of change for the better. Religion must evolve, not stagnate or regress. Holdovers of Molech can be seen throughout the Torah. In contrast to human sacrifice, animals that were going to be sacrificed had to be perfect. And a couple's firstborn child had to be redeemed through an animal sacrifice. In Hebrew, animal sacrifice is known as korban, and the good news is that korban did eventually replace molech, or human sacrifice, entirely. And about 1,000 years after Abraham, Christianity and Rabbinic Judaism furthered the change Abraham started by introducing prayer and support of societies less advantaged to replace animal sacrifice. As Hosea and the other prophets wrote, the Lord requires loving kindness, not animal sacrifice of us. Today, some Jewish Orthodox believe the third temple needs to be built and animal sacrifice reestablished there. And they found strong allies among Israeli leaders and evangelical Christians here in the U.S. They are convinced this third temple must be placed where Islam's Dome of the Rock now stands. Which gets me wondering, have we really eliminated the ritual of human sacrifice?
Hi, I'm Susie Hubley. That was so beautiful. It reminds me, I have to say this, my father had some art books in our cellar, and there was one with the paintings of Paul Gauguin, and one that fascinated me was the one that had those words on it. Bowing to ritual. There are so many kinds of ritual and so many connotations attached to them, but the type of ritual I've thought about the most in my life has to do with religion or spirituality. I think I have a love-hate relationship with ritual. Well, actually, although in a sense I do love ritual, I don't have a corresponding hatred for it. I think the word would be more like condescension. I'm not really proud of that. It comes from a conditioning early in life that valued skepticism above faith and saw ritual as an unquestioning expression of a certain belief system. In general, I'm still very skeptical, and I think it can be a useful way to be. But over the years, and having done a lot of exploration of things that could be called religions, I now find nourishment and joy, as well as comfort in certain rituals. Needless to say, my family was not religious. In fact, there was even hostility to religion, although there was also simultaneously a great deal of love for living beings. Although I had a brief spurt of rebelliousness as a kid and went to a UCC church on my own, I soon got over that and settled back into our family's comfortable belief in non-belief. But I always retained an emotional connection to the hymns that we sang in the junior choir at the Congregational Church. Somehow they got to me, even though I didn't really believe what the lyrics said. I've always loved certain other types of religious music, such as Gregorian chants. So in a way, certain types of religious ritual have always called out to me. I used to see that as a contradiction in myself, though now I think I'm starting to understand it. As a teenager, I was drawn to Buddhism, and one of the things I liked best about it, and still do, was that the Buddha is said to have advised his followers not to automatically accept what he said, but to question it and to come to their own conclusions. Becoming a Buddhist, though, meant coming to terms with ritual. There was lots of bowing that came with it, and even some prostrations, and I didn't see myself as a person who bowed to anyone or anything, let alone, heaven forbid, prostrating myself. With time, actually, I began to love the bowing. I began to see it as an expression of my respect and reverence for the qualities of the Buddha that exist, I believe, within us all. I also see it as an acknowledgement of the spiritual bond that exists within the Sangha or Buddhist group. And for me, it expresses a deep respect and feeling of awe at the miracle of the earth and of life itself. That's the best I can do to explain the effect that certain rituals have on me. But those words are not running through my mind when I bow before an image of the Buddha or to another human being. It's a feeling and not totally explainable. In a similar way, I love the lighting of the chalice here in our A2U sanctuary and in our other gatherings. Before I meditate, I light a candle in the chalice I have at home. It's a symbol and an expression of that feeling of respect, awe, and higher aspiration.
Good morning. My name is Denise Curry, another member of the worship committee, and these are my thoughts about reflections on ritual, which I called Ritual, What is it Good For? And if you're thinking absolutely nothing, I got a few thoughts for you. Our lives are full of routines. We establish routines, both good and bad, brushing our teeth, reading the newspaper, going for a walk, sitting on the couch, binging on Netflix. We like routines. They are comfortable, there are no surprises, our brains can relax and not have to work too hard. They know what comes next, unless they don't. That comfortableness can get us into trouble. It's often cited that most automobile accidents occur within 5 miles of our homes, probably due to people getting distracted because their brains are on autopilot. So why am I talking about routines when this service is about ritual? If routines make up a good part of our day, do we need ritual? If routines give us comfort and security, why would we need anything else? Growing up in a congregational church, the rituals were few and far between. We had communion once a month instead of weekly, the official line being that monthly communion kept the ritual sacred and therefore would not lapse into meaningless routine. So, did monthly communion make the ritual more sacred? It's hard to tell. As a child sitting in the third row, directly in front of the pulpit, and later in the choir loft, I spent a lot of time seeing how long I could keep that tiny square bread, the symbolic body of Christ, from dissolving in my mouth before the cup was brought around to wash it all down. However, I must admit, the deacons who served communion did us proud. In military-like precision, they marched down the aisles in pairs, which they split off at the altar, 4 on each side. They sat in unison and did not rise again until the minister blessed the bread and addressed the congregation to take and eat of it. Then on cue, they stood up, took their plates, and headed down the aisle to position themselves so the distribution was quick and efficient. Then they marched up the aisles to repeat the routine with the cup. The pageantry of the deacons held my attention more than any words the minister said. Although the minister, who preferred to be more dramatic pouring the wine, the long draw, and breaking the bread, those broke me from my reverie. As much as Congregationalists wanted to reduce pomp and ceremony, the pull was irresistible. We needed these rituals. They give events meaning to help us rise above the mundane. So how do we find rituals that work for us? As much as I love my morning coffee and newspaper routine, it doesn't have any great meaning other than it's a nice way to start the day. A ritual that resonates with us can connect to something greater than ourselves, be it community, spirit, or the natural world. By following the wheel of the year, I feel more connected to the natural world. I intentionally mark the seasons with a ritual that represents what is happening as the seasons shift and use that for a metaphor for what occurs in my life. For example, Imbolc, which is celebrated at the beginning of February, marks the fading of winter. We burn greens that were brought into our houses during Yule or Christmas because we no longer need to fear the winter. The earth promises to become green again. We can feel spring working under the earth as it nourishes the seeds in the dark. So Imbolc becomes a time to think about what seeds we want to plant in our own lives. This is a time to make new plans and think about new projects. The ritual of the burning of the greens takes an abstract idea and makes it concrete, a living metaphor. The old year is gone, the new is beginning. A circle of people standing around a fire, stating intentions for the plans they want to make, gives voice to those plans and allows others to aid them in their endeavors. We need rituals in our lives, especially communal ones. It shakes us from our routines and brings people together to celebrate or mourn, to contemplate a loss or a new way of being. As A2Us, we celebrate flower communion and water communion. They bring us together as a community that celebrates each other and how our diversity adds to the beauty of the whole. We need to be reminded of that on a regular basis. My morning coffee won't do that for me. As a church, a family, or an individual, we should carve out sacred time to see ourselves as part of this big, beautiful world and remind ourselves of each other's holiness and our ability to create the world we want to live in. We will now stand and sing closing hymn number 360 in the gray hymn book, Here We Have Gathered. Please stand in body or spirit. As our ritual of benediction and extinguishing the chalice, you are invited to remain seated in silence for a time of integration and reflection while Emily offers the postlude. These words I by Craig Rolland. As we extinguish this chalice flame, may the warmth of its light remain within us, guiding our steps and our hearts. Let us carry forward the strength of this community, the courage to speak truth, and the hope that transformation is possible. In each breath we take, may we remember that the work of love, justice, and healing is ours to continue, both here and beyond these walls. Go in peace, with the light of this gathering to illuminate your way. Our worship is ended, and our service begins. Blessed be.